In 1889, a Smithsonian archaeologist cracked open a sealed burial mound in Tennessee. What he found inside made no sense. A small stone tablet covered in writing. He labeled it Cherokee symbols, filed it away, and forgot about it for nearly 80 years. When researchers finally pulled it out of storage in the 1970s, they flipped it upside down, and everything changed. Because the inscription wasn't Cherokee. It was ancient Hebrew, 2,000 years old, sitting inside a sealed burial mound in Tennessee. That is one artifact. We have found dozens more, and every single one of them has the same problem. They are not supposed to be here. Here's what history taught you. Columbus arrived in 1492. That was first contact. Two hemispheres, completely isolated from each other until that single moment. That is the foundation of everything you were taught about the ancient world. But what if the foundation is wrong? Because scattered across North America, from Tennessee to Michigan to Arizona to Massachusetts, archaeologists have been pulling objects from the ground that cannot exist inside that story. Objects with no explanation, objects that somebody, a very long time ago, left behind. Let's go through them. Start with copper, because this one almost never gets discussed. On the Keweenaw Peninsula in northern Michigan, archaeologists have identified approximately 5,000 ancient copper mines. 5,000. Radiocarbon dating places them in operation between 6000 BC and 1000 BC. That is the Bronze Age. That is not a coincidence. Here is the problem. Estimates suggest that somewhere between 500,000 and 750,000 tons of copper were extracted from those mines. Industrial scale, organized, deliberate, and then it stopped. Around 1000 BC. The mines were abandoned and never used again. Here's the question nobody can answer. Where did the copper go? Because archaeologists did not find it in North America. No massive stockpiles. No ancient North American cities built from this metal. No evidence that local populations absorbed anywhere near that quantity. But in Europe, around the exact same period, the Bronze Age explodes. Copper floods the Mediterranean. Bronze weapons, tools, and structures appear across the ancient world in quantities that historians have never been able to fully source. Some researchers now believe the Lake Superior copper was being mined, loaded onto ships, and transported across the Atlantic, to the Minoans, to the Phoenicians, to the Bronze Age world, which means there were people crossing the Atlantic 3,000 years before Columbus. And nobody taught you that. Now, back to Tennessee. The Bat Creek Stone, excavated in February 1889 by Smithsonian archaeologist John Emmett, found beneath one of 9 skeletons inside a sealed mound, photographed, published in the official Smithsonian report, labeled Cherokee, filed away. 80 years later, researcher Cyrus Gordon rotates the published photograph 180 degrees, and he stops because the inscription, when flipped, is Paleo-Hebrew, the ancient script of the Israelites, used between roughly 100 BC and 200 AD, consistent with 1st and 2nd century Roman period materials. The brass bracelets found alongside the stone were later confirmed to match that exact time period. This was a sealed mound, professionally excavated by the Smithsonian, and nobody has ever explained how ancient Hebrew ended up inside it. The Smithsonian has never issued a formal response. If that bothers you, this will bother you more. Metal detector enthusiasts across New England have been finding Roman bronze coins for decades. Maine, Massachusetts, Vermont, dating from the reign of Emperor Severus Alexander, murdered in 235 AD. Carthaginian coins minted in the 3rd century BC were unearthed during road construction outside Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1787. They were brought to the attention of President John Quincy Adams. Carthaginian coins, Massachusetts, 2,000 years old. Then there are the ships. In 1976, a Brazilian diver found a large sealed jar near Rio de Janeiro, covered in mollusks. Then another. Eventually, 14 jars surfaced. A world-renowned underwater archaeologist confirmed they were Roman amphorae, cargo from a vessel that traveled to Brazil during the height of the Roman Empire. He then found 2 Roman shipwrecks. Nearby, underwater, 2 Roman shipwrecks off the coast of Brazil. Centuries before the official story says anyone should have been there, now crossed the Atlantic, because what was found in Egypt connects directly to what we just described. In the 1970s, scientists examined the mummy of Ramesses II, routine procedure. Except during the examination, they found tobacco. Tobacco, inside the wrappings of a pharaoh dead since 1213 BC. This should be impossible. The tobacco plant is native exclusively to the Americas. It did not exist in the ancient Old World. It was not introduced to Europe until the late 1400s. Further analysis of other Egyptian mummies found traces of cocaine, also exclusively a product of the Americas. The official response? Contamination. But contamination doesn't explain why tobacco plant material would appear concentrated in a specific location in a royal mummy, consistent with intentional placement. The simpler explanation is the one nobody wants to accept. One more: Arizona. In 1924, workers laying a road outside Tucson began pulling objects from the ground. Then more. 32 artifacts in total, 31 made of lead, crosses, swords, ceremonial objects, all engraved in Hebrew and Latin. The inscriptions described a Roman colony in the American Southwest. The dates referenced were consistent with 700 to 900 AD. University of Arizona geologists confirmed the caliche deposits were genuine. The artifacts had been in the ground a very long time. The lead composition was consistent with ancient Roman smelting methods. Mainstream archaeology called it a hoax, but nobody identified a forger. Nobody demonstrated how it was done, and the geochemical evidence has never been directly refuted. 5 artifacts, 5 locations: Tennessee, Michigan, Massachusetts, Egypt, Arizona, all pointing in the same direction. The version of history you were taught assumes the Americas was sealed off from the rest of the world until 1492. But the physical evidence, pulled from sealed mounds, from ocean floors, from road construction, keeps telling a different story. Either every one of these discoveries is a coincidence, or the story has a chapter that hasn't been written yet. Stay with us.
In a sealed Egyptian chamber, an object sat in the dark like it was waiting for us. When the lab dates came back, the air changed. Because the artifact wasn't just old, it was older than the civilization around it. A team sweeps lights across a niche inside a tomb. Lotus patterns, fading paint, dust that moves like smoke. Inside, brittle linen wraps a palm-sized slab of dark stone. Not gold, not a statue. Something that feels functional. It gets catalogued the normal way. Dynastic. Ritual. The assumption is automatic. It belongs to the people who built this place, so it should date to roughly 5,000 years ago. Then someone notices the seams. Along the edges, the stone meets a thin inlay of copper, set into grooves with hardened amber resin. That detail matters because resin carries time. Organic material can be tested, dated. They take microscopic crumbs from a hidden corner and send them out, not to one lab, but 2, because everyone knows what happens when a result threatens a timeline. The reports return, and the numbers refuse to behave. The resin does not match the tomb. It comes back far older, closer to 9,000 years before today. 2 different labs, 2 different runs, same unsettling window. The kind of date that makes you whisper, "Wait, how?" Of course, the safe explanations charge in first. Contamination, reused material, a fluke. Archaeology is careful for a reason, but the team keeps going, because the object itself keeps arguing back. Under magnification, the carved lines are oddly clean. Curves are smooth. Depth stays consistent. Along the grooves are tiny parallel striations, marks that look like controlled abrasion, almost rotary in feel. Experts debate whether simple drills and sand could do it, but the regularity is hard to ignore. Then, the symbols start to land. At first glance, it feels Egyptian. A horizon, a boat, a star. Familiar ingredients. But the arrangement is wrong, like a sentence built from real letters in the wrong order. Near the center is the image that won't let go, a ringed circle above rippling lines, and below it a stepped form like a platform or tower. A sun over primeval waters, a god rising, or a map? Now, stay grounded. Egypt did not appear from nothing. Before pharaohs, there were Nile communities, and the landscape itself changed. North Africa swung between green and desert. There are prehistoric stone alignments in the region that show people watching the sky long before pyramids. So an older object inside a later tomb doesn't automatically mean fantasy. It can mean inheritance. But inheritance from that far back is the part that bites. If the resin date is real, we're not talking about early Egypt. We're talking about deep time, around the end of the Ice Age world, when climates lurched, seas rose, and coastlines moved. A time linked, in many arguments, to abrupt cold snaps and massive floods. A time when a settlement on a shoreline could vanish and leave almost nothing behind. So why is this piece built like engineering? X-ray imaging shows the copper is not simply pressed into a groove. It is keyed in, anchored, as if the maker expected stress, movement, and long survival. That's planning. That's a mind thinking in materials. And trapped under the resin are traces of blue-green pigment, microscopic but real, hinting that the object's story might involve distance, trade, travel, or an heirloom carried far from where it began. Suddenly, the artifact stops feeling like an oddity. It feels like a message passed forward. Egyptian tradition speaks of a first time, an age when order was set and knowledge arrived. Officially, myth is metaphor, but myth is also memory in disguise. Catastrophe becomes a monster. A bright object in the sky becomes a god's weapon. A lost homeland becomes the underworld. So here's the question that tightens the mystery. What if this slab is a survivor from a culture that existed before the dynasties, before the desert tightened its grip, before history had ink? Not a superhuman civilization, just people capable enough to leave puzzles behind, capable enough to shape stone precisely, set metal securely, and encode information in symbols that later Egyptians recognized as powerful, even if they didn't fully understand them. That idea turns history into a loop: growth, collapse, recovery. A catastrophe reset. Not magic, just nature. When water rises, cities drown. When climates flip, food fails. Knowledge becomes a lifeboat. And then the bolder what-ifs arrive, because humans hate a blank space. Some people look at the ringed circle and see a planet. They reach for Anunnaki stories, for ancient astronauts, for gods as literal visitors. Science does not confirm that. But the fact that so many minds jump there tells you something. The evidence feels larger than the official frame. Here's the twist. You don't need aliens for this to be disturbing. You only need missing pages. Because deep time is ruthless. It can erase coastlines, bury cities, grind monuments into sand. It can leave you with one object and no context, like a bottle washed ashore from a shipwreck you can't find. The crew nicknames it the Black Seal. It sits under sterile light now, while the resin date keeps insisting on a deeper origin. The tool marks keep hinting at controlled technique. The symbols keep refusing a comfortable translation. And there's one last detail, almost cruel in its simplicity. Along the bottom edge are tiny notches, deliberately spaced, grouped like a tally. Decoration, some say. Calendar, others suggest. A code, whisper a few. Something meant to be counted by someone who knew what mattered. When the light hits it right, the sequence looks like it's waiting to be read. Codes imply intent. Intent implies purpose. So here's the cliff edge. If a smear of ancient resin can shove an Egyptian artifact back into a world before recorded history, what else is sitting in collections, misdated and mislabeled, because the alternative is too disruptive? And if Egypt's greatest age was already preserving relics from an even older one, are we absolutely sure we know who built the first true high culture on Earth? Or have we been staring at the middle of the story this whole time? And in the next video, the mystery gets carved into stone so hard it should not obey. We'll look at blocks cut with precision that feels impossible for the tools we're told existed, seams that lock together like machine parts, and markings that look less like art and more like engineering. Ancient technology found carved into impossible stone blocks. And once you see those cuts up close, the word primitive won't feel so safe.
Archaeologists have uncovered something that defies everything we thought we knew about ancient Egypt. Drill holes and laser-like cuts carved into stone blocks thousands of years before such technology was supposed to exist. One stunned researcher remarked, "These marks look as if they were made yesterday, with tools we don't even fully understand today. Could this be proof of a lost technology, or something far stranger?"
Across the deserts of Egypt, the highlands of Peru, and the jungles of Southeast Asia, colossal stone blocks sit in eerie silence. Their surfaces are polished to mirror-like perfection. Edges are razor-sharp. Seams are so tight not even a human hair could slip between them. And perhaps most unsettling of all, some of these blocks weigh hundreds of tons, yet they appear to have been shaped as easily as if they were clay. How could Bronze Age tools, fragile copper chisels and pounding stones have achieved this? Or is there something more we are not seeing? Take, for example, the mysterious basalt blocks at the base of Egypt's pyramids. Basalt is harder than iron, yet these stones bear circular drill holes with spiral grooves etched into them, marks strikingly similar to those left by modern power drills. Egyptologists argue these were carved with primitive methods, but engineers examining the stones insist the evidence suggests something far more advanced, perhaps even rotary tools powered by methods we no longer understand.